And when are you gonna have your noise monitoring plan put together? Because you're supposed to have that as a development standard as well.
I would have to check, Dave would have to check. I thought we had one put together, so I would have to go back and check.
But I mean, the monitoring's supposed to be in place, as I understand it, before you start operating.
We've already done test monitoring out there on various occasions, but you
But there's
mentioned
supposed to be
monitoring plan.
continuous monitoring, as I understand
What?
it. There's supposed to be continuous noise monitoring, as I understand it.
I think it's called a monitoring plan, it's not called continuous monitoring.
So you're saying you're just gonna monitor it once in a while, is that what you're saying?
It says a monitoring plan, that's all I said. You said continuous, and I said it was a monitoring plan.
It says conduct daytime and nighttime monitoring according to an approved monitoring protocol. The monitoring protocol will be submitted to the county for approval prior to recording the final plat. I mean, basically, if you're not gonna do continuous monitoring, we're gonna have to go to the county on that too. Because the expectation is that you're gonna monitor so you know when there's gonna be excessive noise. Because if you're not monitoring it continuously, how are you gonna know when there's noise?
Dave, we've already been doing monitoring on various stages of this development to try to understand that, the noise program. So, in that regard, we already have been doing due diligence trying to understand it, okay?
That's a different issue. The issue that I'm addressing is the expectation that you will be monitoring noise in real time, so when you've got a problem, because what it says in your supposed plan is that essentially that you're going to, if you find excess noise, that you'll basically take immediate action, corrective action to bring the facility into compliance. And if you're not monitoring continuously, how are you gonna do that? What's that?
I agree with that statement. It does not mean that it means it's a monitoring program. It doesn't mean it's continuous monitoring. So,
Seriously? If you're not monitoring continuously, how can you know if you're out of compliance? I mean, are you seriously stating that you're gonna be able to know you're in compliance if you're not monitoring all the time? That makes no sense. That makes no sense. And if that's what you're planning on doing, then we got a bigger problem than any of us have ever anticipated. I mean, what are you gonna do,
monitoring
guess?
program protocol, okay?
But it's for compliance. If you're not monitoring all the time, how can you know you're compliant?
It sounds like you more selective monitor. You'll select the time.
I mean, what you're gonna force us to do is do our own individual, additional monitoring, because you're not doing it properly. Sitting there saying, well, we're
No,
gonna
you-
spot check it.
You're making assumptions there. You're making
No,
assumptions.
what you're saying, you're not gonna monitor continuously. That's what you said.
We don't have plans to monitor continuously.
How are you going to know that you're in compliance if you don't?
You know,
In other words, you're not going to know. You're putting the burden on us to prove it's a nuisance and that you're in violation of what you agreed to meet, which was the residential noise standard. And if you're not monitoring it, then there's no way you can know you're compliant.
we'll be monitoring that according to an approved plan. We don't have a plan.
What kind of crap is that, guys? I mean, come on, this is not rocket science. You either monitor it or you don't. If you don't monitor it, you can't know you're compliant.
If the plan's not sufficient to monitor the noise, then it won't be approved. So,
I just don't see how you can claim you're compliant if you're not looking.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I don't know the answer to that.
What a pile of nonsense. I don't understand the logic of this, where you say, well, we'll look once in a while, and that means we're complying all the time. That's what you're saying. That makes no sense. And how can you people sit there and say it does make sense?
I think it makes sense, because if they do it randomly, if they,
Seriously? How can you say that you're gonna be in compliance if you're not looking?
well, if we don't know when they're gonna randomly monitor us as far as noise, then
But the problem is
You need to
your
make sure
operation is
compliance.
not constant. Your operation has multiple things that can turn on and off. And you, unless you happen to be monitoring at the maximum period when all the stuff or more stuff is on than off, how do you know whether you're in compliance during that time?
I'm not really aware of what the plan is,
Well,
as far as the approved
look,
plan, but I'm sure.
on the
that-
same point, what we're doing is we're getting various baselines, okay? And in activities startup, we are monitoring those activities, so we have a better understanding. Does that mean we have to continuously monitor? No, it does not. But
I
at the
take
same
issue with
point-
that, and we
at the
will be
same
talking
point,
to the county about
When
this.
things start and stop, yes, we can monitor, and there'll be random monitors, but it doesn't mean we have to continuously monitor.
Yes, it does, because you have to be continuously compliant.
Okay.
You have to be
We'll
continuously
have a disagreement
compliant.
on this subject, okay? Yes.
That's what you obviously, you don't want to talk about it if you don't like the answer. The answer is if you're not monitoring, you can't prove you're compliant.
No, you just want total continuous monitoring, and that was not the intent of that statement in the resolution.
No, I don't think we're gonna come up with a solution. I like James's idea, let's agree to disagree and see what the approved plan is. We can look at
Well, you just open yourselves up to us coming against you, because all you have to do is measure every once in a while when you are making a lot of noise, and just say you're against the plan. So, how can
Well,
you
Mr.
possibly?
Kisker has already stated on multiple times that once we start up, he's gonna be there at the property line with the noise monitoring.
We're all
thing.
gonna be checking.
Anyway, he
We're
has
all
said that
gonna be
Well,
multiple
but that's
times.
not our
No,
job.
no,
It is
you
your
have said-
job to
you
be
have said that
compliant.
multiple times.
That's irrelevant. It is your job to meet the standards that you've agreed to, which is to
And
meet
we
the
will meet those
residential
standards.
standards.
that. We have every intent to
At
meet
all
those
times.
standards.
At all times. It's not once in a while, it's at all times. We should not have to monitor your sorry operation.
We intend to meet it at all times.
How can you know you are if you're not monitoring all the time?
We'll be monitoring.
But not all the time. How can you?
If we find that we're out of compliance, we'll fix it. If you guys find we're out of compliance, then we'll.
What-
But why should we have to do it? It's your
You don't
job.
have to do it.
It's your job to
We're
keep
gonna
sure,
monitor-
to make sure you're in compliance.
And we're gonna do our job, we're gonna monitor according to approved plan. So I think that we need to agree to disagree until we dial in on the details.
Why are you not monitoring continuously? It's not a cost issue. You're gonna have to have those monitors
it is.
anyway. So what is it that?
Because they're not really gonna monitor. They only
Well,
have to
I-
report to
I
the
know-
county
I
once a
know
year.
that, I
I mean,
know
part
that,
of it is they're only
I
gonna
want
report to the
answer
county
as to
once a
why-
year.
What's wrong with monitoring continuously?
Because they don't want to be in compliance.
Or they wanna know when they have excess noise, so they can shut it down.
Well, the fact of the matter is, they say they're only gonna report to the county once a year, so they can do whatever the damn well they wanna do. They can monitor one day a year and call it good.
Okay.
I cannot believe that you don't understand the concept that in order to know you're always in compliance, which is what the requirement is, that you monitor all the time.
Right.
I mean, it ain't rocket science, guys. You're sitting there not fooling anybody by saying that you can be in compliant by only doing occasional monitoring. That's not the way it works. Now, maybe after 2 years of data that you actually make public instead of hiding from us and hiding from the county except one report a year, maybe after a couple of years of monitoring, then yeah, you can say, yeah, see, over this period of time, we've had no excess noise. But the fact is, without that data, there's no, particularly when your own modeling says you're gonna be out of compliance.
Modeling was done for industrial sources. That's when we went through the USR, it was done for industrial. We were in compliance with industrial. The county commissioners then instituted additional guidelines that Martin Marietta.
But those are the ones you have to meet.
I don't disagree, but I'm just correcting that statement.
No, the statement said that you were not gonna meet residential noise standards. That's what the modeling says.
Modeling was put in place because of industrial USR standards.
So what?
And
It
that's
showed
the
you're not gonna meet,
standards.
so what, you'd have faked it differently if you'd have known you had to meet residential? I mean, the point is that it showed you won't meet residential standards. Your own analysis says you're not gonna meet the standards, and now you're saying, not only does our modeling say we're not gonna meet the standards, yet we're not even gonna look. I mean, you're saying, yes, I've said we're gonna check you, but the fact is, it is not our job to make sure you're in compliance. It is your job to make sure you're in compliance. But then you're saying, you say you understand, but you say you're not gonna do what you need to do.
We're gonna follow our approved plan to monitor the noise.
But you also have to follow the USR, which is proof that you're in compliance all the time.
The USR says we have to have an approved monitoring.
But it says you have to meet the noise standard, which is residential.
And we intend to,
But how are you gonna prove that you are if you don't monitor?
through the approved monitoring noise plan.
It's a joke.
David, we're not gonna come to an agreement on this. I think we should table it and move on.
Well, that's what you always say, okay? You never want to actually do anything that makes any sense for us, okay? You're constantly saying, well, we'll look at that, we'll look at that. This is ridiculous, guys. In order to find out whether you're meeting a standard, you have to make a goddamn measurement. How can you show that you're meeting a standard if you're not measuring it? I mean, it makes no sense. This is not rocket science. It's not some kind of nuclear science. It's common sense. I just don't see how you can possibly make this claim that you're going to be in compliance by making a spot check monitoring or some damn thing. You need to measure continuously, at least for a while.